So, apologies for not being here last week. Mainly, it's because I wanted to get as much detail as I could on this subject, because it's now starting to become, I guess, one of my biggest pet peeves. And that is the issue, apologies if that comes up, of microtransactions. And actually, and to some extent, then we start getting into the whole idea of downloadable content. And, you know, we move on quite a bit from there. Trust me, we'll get around to covering quite a bit of it. But yeah, why am I bringing up on microtransactions? Well, and I was bringing it up anyway, because I felt it's an issue that I want to talk about. But last week, the critically acclaimed Last of Us had its remastered port to the PlayStation 4, and it's got a microtransaction system of sorts. Basically, it's sort of DLC, but it's really microtransaction style, which you can spend, I think it's like $5 or $6 pack to get a certain array of weapons. There's also, I think, for 99 cents each. This is all going by US value. You can get certain hats. Not like protective sort of armor plating hats, which, thank God, because then that would break the system. But yeah, 99 cents just to have a particular hat. And the scary thing is, this is the kind of stuff that I'm actually happy with. Because, in essence, the problem comes with many other games. And the fact that many other games have really got this system, let's be frank about it, utterly wrong. So, I guess, I shouldn't say the main offenders, but the ones that have been causing the most press, certainly in the UK, and partially the US, has been FIFA and EA. And certainly over here with FIFA, many kids have charged their parents' credit card bills through the roof because of FIFA points and FIFA coins. Because one of the main bases is the Ultimate Team thing, which I think there's some sort of variant of, possibly with Madden. I'm not sure, don't take my word for it. But certainly with FIFA, there's the Ultimate Team aspect of a game, which is basically like a trading card thing. So you've got to get, you know, the right skill cards that you want, the right players, the right manager, just everything to gel, and then you can take on the world and be the best. Now, you do get certain cards free with progression, because over progression you get points for doing so well. Or you can use FIFA coins. And let's just say, FIFA coins, there's no point in calling them FIFA coins, to be honest, because we might as well call them money. Because if you are short to get a certain player or a certain thing that you want, it basically says, okay, you need to top up your account. Do you have a credit card? Yeah, so I can't remember what the stats are for that in particular, but you know, parents have been charged hundreds and hundreds of dollars because their kid has just said, points, yes, approve, done. And, you know, let's say if it's, I think it's sort of like, if you want 4,000 points, it's about $10. Which doesn't seem too bad. Or coins, should I say. But then, of course, if you want one of the star, really good players like Messi or Ronaldo, and you want to go to the auction to find them, some of the best prices for them start at nearly 100,000, which would technically be about, I'm trying to think with the currency, that's going to be at least over $100. I'm not sure exactly on the deal, but basically, in terms of the whole pay-to-win thing, and for people that don't know it better, they can really abuse that. And there doesn't seem to be any sort of limits and restrictions on it, because the prompt is always there. Use coins. Haven't got enough coins? Top up your account. This actually cropped up late last year, early this year, with Forza Motorsport 5 on the Xbox One. Because when you started the game, every car that you could get had a credit value, which you could earn in game, or tokens. Tokens were only obtainable by using coins to buy them. Except basically the system was you could only get tokens by spending real money. So basically, I think for the best deal you got, I think it's 5,000. There was 5,000 coins and 300. Well, no, sorry, 5,000 coins and 3,000 tokens for, I think it was like 60 or 70 bucks. Which then, of course, means for people that aren't patient and want to actually grind through the game, they can get access to the best cars and enter them into the races at the best times and everything. And to be honest, that isn't the way that I think games should be. You know, if you've got a game, I expect if I go up onto a starting grid in Forza, I am at the same level and experience as the person that's starting in the grid space beside me. But for all I know, that person might have spent $200, $250, let's say, getting, you know, the 3 best cars in the game and using them against me. And that isn't the right system. Ironically enough, around the same time, Gran Turismo 6 came under fire for pretty much the same thing. Basically, you could use real money to buy in-game credits. Not tokens or anything like that. It was just actual in-game credits. And I believe at launch, at least, for 7 million credits, you had to pay $50. If you take into account that the game at launch cost $60, basically, in order to get 7 million, if you wanted it, you basically have to pay the price of a game. And that, I can see why they're pricing it so high, but there are people that are that lazy and are that rich. And those people sort of don't deserve to be existing, in my opinion. Because it's okay if you do it on like a one-off basis, but if you do it for every single game, the whole, I don't want to use this phrase yet, but I will, because it will get to much later on really prominently, the whole pay-to-win scenario. And that is the dodgy thing. And I guess the reason why all this has happened is because of 2 major things. One is mobile, which we'll get to later, but first I want to bring up sort of mobile as well, but mainly social media. Basically what I mean is your Facebook games. Your stuff like Farmville, Candy Crush Saga. Even to some extent things like the Pyramid, $100,000 Pyramid and Wheel of Fortune. It's like, you know, you've run out of your weekly or daily allocation of episodes, pay real money to get more episodes. Same with something like Candy Crush Saga. It's like, oh, you came so close to finishing this level. But if you pay us, I think it's like, I don't know how many bucks it is, because I haven't played Candy Crush Saga. I stay away from that like the plague. Mainly because I play the original ones that don't charge you anything. Like Tetris 2 on the NES. Oh, gotta love emulators. But, yeah, it's just, oh, you need some extra energy? Spend money now. Even the CSI ones that I play on Facebook, you run out of energy from doing your task, and it's like, oh, seems like you're out of energy. Do you want to buy something to get energy back? Only costs you so many Facebook credits, and Facebook credits are relatively the equivalent of $1 or a pound in whatever currency it is. So there again, it's sort of, yeah, I don't want to spend that much on this game. But the thing is, because of the way it's all prominently placed and everything, it's sort of like, you have to, do it now. So if anybody's just tuned in at this part and got scared by that, I apologise. But the two that I want to bring up, and these got ragged on quite a lot over the last 18 months or so, are two prominent ones from two major video game franchises. The first is Final Fantasy, or the Bravest. So, with this, it is basically you fighting a whole load of villains from the Final Fantasy franchise history, really. I think all the series sort of from 1 to 5. You face, other monsters along the way, but really it just... The snag is, with this, is your party starts small, but eventually it can expand to a party of 32. But the really confusing thing is, rather than individually saying, right, this one here, I want you to attack first, it's sort of, you just swipe or tap, and they all just either randomly do it, or or attack at once, sort of thing. But the big snag here, and why it caused a furore with quite a lot of people, is the classic characters. So there are about 30, I think it's about 32, I think it is, classic characters. And if you want to get them, you have to pay 99 cents. But rather than being the usual way of how you'd expect a shop or something to run, you actually don't find out what you buy until it's unveiled to you. So it's basically, here is the mystery box. What's inside? Oh, it's an elf. And why I did that reaction is because quite a lot of people, obviously being Final Fantasy fans, want some of the big names, like Cloud from Final Fantasy VII, and Zidane from, I think it's 9? I can't remember, 9 or 8. It's been so long since I played them. And basically, the deal was people were spending $1 every time. And this is the other thing as well. It wasn't like you could individually buy each one. It was literally some sort of mystery box. So you could make 10 purchases, and 3 out of those 10 could be that same elf character or whatever. Don't get me wrong, all the classic characters are pretty cool, but the fact that every time you make a 99-cent purchase, it's a 1 in 32 chance, and you could duplicate something that you bought in a previous go. Basically means you could be spending close to, if not over, $100 just to get a couple of certain characters that you want. Because basically, once those characters die, they're out the game. And the only way you can get them back, 99 cents, please. Money. We want your money. And speaking of that, let's go back to EA and let's go to probably the most controversial mobile game of this year. That being the Dungeon Keeper port for, I think it's on Android, select Android devices, but certainly the Apple operating system, iOS. So, in the original game, which is a classic, if you can find it anywhere, Steam, GOG, anything, play it. It's really good, really fun. The whole idea is you obviously, progress through the dungeon, expanding and fortifying it. Really, it's sort of tower defense before tower defense existed. And, created by, seen by some as sort of a visionary, seen by some as a visionary who lost it, Peter Molyneux. And it was a really good game. And there was a lot of interest in this mobile port. And what happened? Well, they basically got the social media bug. So, pretty early on, after progressing a few levels, let's say you need to make an adjustment to your dungeon. So you go up to the wall and you click on it, and then it tells you you cannot complete any more actions for another 24 hours. Unless, of course, you give us money. And by money, I mean, well, the deal was, I think for 14,000 crystals, or sorry, 14,000 gems, sorry, you would have to pay $70. Now, if you take into account that you only have, you have a daily limit on what you do in the game, unless you pay gems, basically you can do stuff but want to finish it off completely, so that means you could be using up quite a lot of gems and practically going through possibly all 14,000 in a playthrough if you're running up to your max. So then you need another $70. And the most dodgy thing about it is some people were looking at the maths, and the most popular bundle was like, I think it was 1,000 or something, and that equated to, I believe, like $1.72 for each gem. The one that they labeled as great value, which was like 5,000 or 6,000 gems, was actually more money per gem. So in essence there, you're already doing false advertising. And recently, I think in the last couple of weeks, the UK Advertising Authority heavily fined EA because all the time they kept saying in the game, this game is free. And this is sort of also resolved in the iTunes Store and the Google Android Store and all the mobile app stores now to have to change their ways. Not just on a European front, but on a global front, as to actually say, these games are free for you to get, but you will have to make, or you can make, more. It should be will have, because it's sneaky that way. But there are in-app purchases in the game in order to enhance your experience. And the fact that Peter Molyneux himself even disowned the thing, I think tells you how it was really not received very well by fans and actually people that had never played the game before, because they knew this isn't how you do it properly. You know, with The Last of Us, it's done it properly. It's, here's some guns, here's some hats. It's only a tiny little thing, but it sort of adds to the experience. In all the other cases that we've brought it up, it's either been sort of false putting socks in your pants to make it look like you're more well endowed, or basically breaking the game and making it a pay to win sort of deal. Sort of, you've got to invest money in this. And speaking of investment, and no, we're not talking about crowdfunding. At least not yet. But we now come to DLC. And again, the sort of example is The Last of Us, because I still rate this year that the best DLC that has come out has been The Last of Us Left Behind, which I think is exceptional. And also, to some extent, the BioShock Infinite Burial at Sea. Which, okay, the first bit came out sort of last year, but the second part came out earlier this year. The thing here is, and again, this is sort of the deal that I wanted to talk about, as I lose track. The whole concept of DLC needs to be sort of controlled, because there are some high-profile offenders, in my opinion. Case one being, and I hate to say it because I love the game, Borderlands. The amount of DLC that there is for that one game is sort of ridiculous. I think if you count it up in total for Borderlands 1, there is something like 50 pieces of DLC at least on Steam. Because there's individual guns and individual costume packs and a whole load of stuff. Saints Row is another big one. There's Saints Row the 4th had about, I think, 26 individual pieces if you wanted that. Saints Row the 3rd had close to about 20. Some of the others don't really roll off the top of my head, but there are some games that basically just have so many pieces of DLC that it's sort of worth. Well, no, sorry, it's you're going to lose track of it because there's just too much. And if you, of course, want the complete experience, you've got to buy it all. And more often than not, if you do get it brand new and don't wait till the sales, you're paying a lot. Don't get me wrong, you can do that, but I somehow feel that quite a lot of this DLC is sort of produced for no reason. I hate to bring up Call of Duty, but I feel that is another problem. And I know people like multiplayer, but it's just, in previous years, when we've had multiplayer content, it didn't cost you the equivalent of $60 to get 16 maps. I know there needs to be some, compensation for, the developers' efforts, but does it have to be the price of a game? Now, I know you can make savings with bundles and everything. And the one I also want to talk about here, the Season Pass, which seems to be a growing little thing. Because the Season Pass sometimes isn't what it's all made up to be. Look at Aliens Colonial Marines. Rubbish game, and the DLC is sort of average. Then you get Last of Us, which I think the Last of Us DLC Season Pass was like $20 or $30, and you've got a whole load of multiplayer maps for that, and the Left Behind DLC. It didn't cost you $60 for that. So why should Activision charge so much? That is the major issue. And of course, if you don't take advantage of a Season Pass deal and all that, it actually costs you $80. So the 25% off saving is worth it, but in essence, keep in mind that pretty much as soon as a new Call of Duty game comes out, the last one doesn't really get that much attention, or at least, let's say, a couple of years, let's say. So Black Ops 2 won't be played once Advanced Warfare comes out this November. So you spent $120, let's say, if you got the Season Pass, on getting all that content and all those multiplayer maps, and you're willing to just forget it. If I'm spending that much money on something, one, I want to get my money's worth out of it, and two, I want to make sure that it lasts me a good long while. Not just that it's value for money in terms of the content, but in terms of, I guess, longevity. Because, and it sort of ties into the fact that servers for these games sometimes get cut off after a couple of years. Servers for FIFA games, I think, have like a 3 or 4 year cut-off point, which is sort of fair because obviously older games have little demand. But when those older games are in the shops for $2 or $3, or the equivalent of here in the UK, people are going to pick them up. Okay, they may not have the right rosters, but sports games are sport games. They're not really that dramatically different. And it's the feeling that I have with most DLC that seems to be an add-on. At least in terms of supplementary stuff. When you get like story-based single-player things, like the stuff that just got released for Dark Souls, and is still to come, and the previously ones I mentioned with BioShock and The Last of Us, I feel that they're additional things to the immersive experience. And we know that DLC content can work. Look at Telltale's Walking Dead, just getting commissioned for a 3rd season of games, because the first 2 have done so well. So well, in fact, that we're getting Borderlands spin-offs, we're getting Game of Thrones spin-offs, we're already getting the Fables one, and The Wolf Among Us, which has got a lot of high acclaim as well. So, what is the issue with people getting it wrong with the DLC? A ridiculous amount of weapons, which all cost, so much. A whole load of maps, some of which you might not even play. Some people don't like the whole Call of Duty Zombies thing. So the fact that they were forced to have 4 maps of zombies in Call of Duty Black Ops 2, which I still find it funny to this day, is being played more than Call of Duty Ghosts on most platforms. I think that says a lot about that franchise. But No, I've already talked about that. This whole idea of the video game companies wanting all this extra money off you for content that probably isn't worth the price that they're charging you, even when it's on the old season pass sort of reduced deal, is the problem with this industry. Stuff needs to be priced fair and reasonably for the amount that you're getting and the experience that you're going to get. As I say, longevity. It's just basically a way for these companies to get even more money for unnecessary stuff. And then we get the ultimate one. The be-all and end-all. And this is where I want to go next. Perhaps not in the next video. But I think we need to talk about pre-orders. Screw you guys. I'm going home.